when a door is constantly shutting on you and you're trying to pry yourself out of it and your body is constantly like telling you like, no, this is not good. Like you're angry, you're volatile right now. You don't want to eat and you need fuel. Like your body will tell you to pivot because this other option out there will leave you speechless. You will not be able to recognize yourself in the best way. So trust your body, trust your mind.
Nick Zazon. I asked you before the show and I still got it wrong. Zazon.
It is okay.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show. We're so excited to have you.
I'm so happy to be here.
Nick is a speaker, a writer, a creator on a mission to, I will use the trademark, normalize normal bodies because I just love it. I think do you have that trademark? I see the TM next to it.
Yes.
It's such a beautiful phrase. She has almost 1 million followers on Instagram where she posts all these raw, authentic photos of herself and her journey recovering from an eating disorder and also just like living life, but unfiltered. And you have almost 2 million followers on TikTok. You're just like blowing up everywhere. But when you're at a party and people ask you what you do, how do you introduce yourself?
Oh, it's still always awkward. I never know what to say because I'm like, I wear all the hats in my businesses.
Yeah. This is a hard job description.
Yeah. But I typically just say that I am a creator and I run my businesses through my media.
Okay. Yeah. That's all encompassing. Then I feel like you can get deeper into it if they ask questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you tell everyone a little bit about how you got started? I know you started on social media about 6 years ago, but it was a very different goal actually when you started. Your account has really transformed.
Yeah. When I started, I was in college at ASU and I had just gotten out of an abusive relationship and my social media began by me sharing a weight loss journey. I have a very obsessive personality and it quickly took off because I began to be obsessed with social media and obsessed with losing weight and all things food and tracking. And I struggled with an eating disorder pretty heavily during that time, but no one.
The account, though, was primarily focused on sharing, kind of like you were covering it up. You were like, I'm actually just on a health journey, sharing these transformation pictures. What then switched it from the transformation pictures to actually this is not real life and I'm going to share how I really feel and what's really going on?
Yeah, it was not an easy transition. It was my friend also in the fitness community at the time, because at the time that's when social media started to like kind of take off. And fitness influencers started to take off. You know, anti-diet culture was not a thing. No one was talking about it then. And all of the people that I looked up to were sharing their diets for bodybuilding competitions. And, I was so excited to be part of that community. But I was struggling with, many eating disorders throughout, 6 years at that point. And it got to a point where my body couldn't keep up with dieting anymore. That's just what diets do, right? You can never keep up. It's never going to be good enough. And so I was photoshopping my photos because I was rapidly gaining weight because I was binge eating, and I was like my persona just started to slip off no matter how hard I was trying. And people caught it on social media. Gossip sites were going viral, and friends that I thought were friends at the time were playing into it, and I was getting a lot of threats daily, and it sent me into a very negative mental health space. And for about 4 weeks, I went on like a full-on binge. which is not like people think of eating disorders as like not eating. At that time, I was gaining weight rapidly because eating I was eating everything. And I remember sitting in bed with um, Door Dashes all around me or Uber Eats at the time because I couldn't even get out of bed or go outside to go get groceries. I was just like sitting in my food. And I sent a text to my sister and I was like, I think I need to go home and recover because like I tried keeping this up and it's just not feasible for me. Like it's just not working. And um that's when I began to share the raw and honest truth of what diet culture does to you and what the culture has done to all of us. Um, and slowly but surely, and then very quickly, my social media began to grow.
Do you remember, was there like a first post that you shared that was like, okay, this is not real life and this is what's actually going on? And was that terrifying?
There was a waiting period of probably a month, I would say, where like people kind of thought something was going on. I was still posting, but my body was changing.
Yeah.
And, I was getting questions. And then, uh, like I said, a month went by and I finally posted a side by side of, my weight gain and the explanation behind it and how I am still healthy. Mhm. And how gaining weight was the healthiest possible thing that I could have done for my body during this time. And I'm receiving help. And eating disorders are a real thing and they are extremely prevalent. And it's not some little thing that people choose to have or can choose to not have. It is, life threatening and it can be life threatening. And it went viral, like viral.
Hmm.
And that's when my social media started to grow through my recovery.
Do you feel like it's gotten easier the more raw and authentic you've been to share those pictures, videos, or is it still pretty difficult? Do you still feel a little vulnerable?
It's definitely gotten easier as I've grown into this recovery state. It's not, I'm recovered. I'll never deal with this again. I still constantly fight thoughts and feelings every day, and I'm in therapy, and it will be a lifelong thing. Um,
Yeah.
and but that being said, it does get easy, but the new struggles that I face and when I share them are still hard when I post them.
Do you have a best piece of advice that you've gotten maybe throughout your recovery or throughout your life that has stuck with you?
There's a couple of things. My eating disorder dietitian, who I would not be here without, um, she really played a pivotal role in my ability to show up online because I feel like um, she gave me like all of this information, like factual information that I had never heard of before. And when um at least for me, when I was deep in my eating disorder, I was always looking for facts, like some type of scientific evidence that proved that I was right in my doing to starve myself or doing
Yeah.
to be the healthiest thing possible, so that I would feel better about it. Um, and she was just giving me all of this scientific information about how um uh, food, when you digest it, if you have a negative feeling around food and you digest it, your body's not going to digest it all the way.
Hmm.
Um, and, you know, and just like all of these tidbits of information that I could then provide the people around me and myself and my community with so that they could conceptualize this thing that diet culture is actually harmful. So it's not like a piece of advice. the fact that it's actually scientifically true that dieting doesn't work and being authentic
Yeah.
and being true to yourself is truly the only um, way to live joyfully.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, I think along those same lines, the body is so much smarter than we often think. And we think that like our emotions and the way we feel has nothing to do with like the more concrete things like what we eat or how much we work out or how many calories we burn. And it really does. Like it's all so intertwined.
Hmm.
And the data will always support that. And I think, especially with something like eating disorders, we want to think that we can fool our bodies. We can be like, you don't need as much energy as you think you need. And that
Hmm.
is just so far from the truth. And sometimes you need the data. Sometimes, I mean, I know me, like, too, when I struggle with having bad anxiety and I spiral, sometimes I just need concrete data to show me that, like, I actually, like, my thoughts aren't.
It it does get easier to lean on your body more throughout time rather than trusting data. For the first year or two, I remember relying on data heavily just so that I could remind myself. It was like an affirmation. I was dealing with all of these things and especially with online hate and people telling me I was going to die of heart disease by gaining weight. Like I wanted to make sure that I had adequate information and education to provide myself um so that I could go into those conversations with clarity.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm sure you kind of touched on it, but I'm sure throughout this journey too, you've had a lot of people who have not been very supportive and kind, as sadly anyone encounters when they receive any sort of attention online. How have you navigated that, especially being in such a sensitive place and then having people just exacerbate the situation?
It definitely affected me a lot, at first, and, I'm a very, like, head-on person. If someone, like, says something to me that I don't agree with, I want to, like, talk back,
Yeah.
and, throughout the years, I've learned that that's not always the best decision. Um,
Sometimes it's needed though.
yes, yes, absolutely, uh, but again, like that data and learning to trust myself and trust my body, trust my emotions help it not affect me as much throughout the years, but it still affects me because as my journey has evolved, I'm 6 years recovered now. I'm going to be sharing new things and I will get negative comments in new ways, and it will bother me. And,
Yeah.
mm, as now that I'm older, I'm noticing like my reactions are more like, okay, well then I'm not going to share it anymore. Because social media can be a lot and like I don't want to put myself in harm's way, but also like you said, you do need to stand up for yourself,
Yeah.
especially when your heart is in the right place and you're showing up authentic and real and wanting to connect with people. It's
Yeah.
absolutely okay to defend yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like you're doing, if no one does it, then those people will just continue on saying what they want to say and doing what they want to do. So it's kind of hard. It's like someone's got to be brave enough. Like I get ignore the haters, but at some point, I've even found that with myself sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, no, no, I'm just gonna respond to the comment because
Yeah.
if no one does, then I'm part of the problem, I guess. And you can do it. You
Yeah.
don't have to be mean. You can do it in a kind way, but it does. There has to be some sort of repercussions for people who cyberbully. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just, or else it's just going to continue.
That's why I love my community so much. Every time I have a negative comment on my post, there's
They
always
jump
a
on
few
it for you.
people. Oh, yeah, they're like,
I love
"That's
that.
the girl," and I'm like,
Thank you. Honestly, there's not I mean, there's nothing better than nice people on the internet, but I would venture to say that the best of the best are the people who don't even know you, who fight for you on the internet.
"Absolutely,
Like,
absolutely."
those people have a special place in heaven, I swear.
Because I would do the same. In fact, I do
Yes.
the same on random posts that I see. I'm like, that's not
Yeah.
okay.
No, it really is such a beautiful commentary. Like, those people are really the cream of the crop because to put yourself out there and go up that for someone who you don't even know is such a beautiful, like, example of humanity, honestly. Someone's gotta talk
Absolutely.
about that more. Those people
I know.
are angels.
I know.
Do you have a worst piece of advice that you've ever gotten?
Oh, yes. Um,
Maybe several.
when all of the social media hate was going on, with my photoshopping, my family was so protective of me and didn't want me to put myself in harm's way. And they, talk to me daily about not showing up anymore on social media. And I just, I didn't even respond to them because I knew that wasn't an option for me because I had this thing that was so valuable to share, that there was no other option. It was share it because it can save people's lives. And um, it took a while for one of my older sisters and my parents to be like, oh, okay. Like she's actually helping people and she's strong and she can do this. Because if I would have taken their advice, I wouldn't be here today.
Interesting. I think I like the point of that because I think even the people we love most who are coming from a good place, sometimes I think you have to recognize, like, you know yourself better than anyone else at the end of the day. Even the
Mhm.
people that love you, and even if they're trying to help, if there's something inside of you saying, no, this really feels right, you got to follow that.
Absolutely.
If you are listening to this podcast, you are probably a fan of inspirational quotes. And if that's the case, then you should check out my book. I feel that it's a cute little retro book with each chapter being a different emotion and then quotes that can help you with that emotion. So if you're looking to support me or the show, if you need a cute little gift for a friend or just something to flip through when you're feeling down one day, then this book is for you. You can purchase it at quotesbychristy.com, which is my website, or the link will be in the show notes. If you do not want to talk about it, completely understand. But I know that you recently posted about your dad passing away, and I ask a question usually, which is, what's a lesson you've learned from one of the hardest times in your life so far? And I can only assume that this has probably been one of them. It just happened in February, and I'm so sorry for your loss. Um, is there a biggest takeaway that you've had through this grieving process that might be able to help others as well?
Oh, that is a big question. Um, and I do want to answer and I do want to talk about it. Um, I'm, his passing happened February 3rd or February 2nd. Um, and so it's been a couple of months and it feels like my body is still in the state it was when it happened. Um, and I feel like the biggest lesson that I've learned with this, mm, my dad was always teaching me lessons, always. There would be just like these little tidbits of quotes that he would say all the time. When I would speed to get to places because I'm late, he'd be like, Mick, you get there when you get there. And, mm, so these quotes are constantly going on throughout my head every single day, every second of the day, especially now. He's not here in the physical sense. Um, but I'm learning that emotions affect our bodies so much more than we give them credit for. Um, within these last couple of months, um, I've had pure panic attacks that I've never dealt with before because when you're in a state of fight or flight, um, especially when something traumatic happens, that you were not expecting whatsoever. Um, you're just constantly on the go, constantly like trying to help people, constantly trying to be there for people, and you forget to be there for yourself. And there's this saying, and there's a book, which, it's The Body Keeps the Score, which was one of the books that helped me find out that I had endometriosis. Trauma affects your body, and you need to be paying attention to yourself. You need to be slowing down and spending mindful time with yourself, so that you can allow emotions to flow through you in a healthy way. And it's okay to ask for help if you need help doing that.
I love that. How do you feel like you have gotten in tune with yourself? Are there specific things that you've done? And how do you feel like you've gotten the courage also to ask for help?
My dad, in the last few years of his life, my dad and my mom bought this lake house in Michigan, and he was spending all of his time making sure the building process of the new house was going correctly. He was the one managing it, and since he passed, I have taken over that process, and it's been really cathartic for me to connect with him in that way, and it feels good. And it feels good because I'm not necessarily paying attention to the grieving process, because at first I was like, okay, if I pay attention to it now, then I'm going to get through it faster. And that's not the case. If you pay attention to grieving and your body's saying no, your body is saying no, and you need to take a step back. So that's been helping me connect with myself and connect with my family in a way that I haven't been able to connect with them before. And it's felt really good. And as far as reaching out for help, it wasn't always easy for me. Reflecting back to when I went into recovery for eating disorders, and, going into therapy for other mental health issues, and asking to see a psychiatrist and asking for specific help has been a skill I've had to learn, because it's not something I was equipped with growing up. Um, I live, my family is very big. I have 5 siblings. And so we were all kind of just like, it was chaos constantly, obviously.
Yeah.
And so I was fending for myself, and I'm the second youngest. So like, I got to figure it out. And that was my motto always, like, got to figure it out, got to figure it out. And sometimes you just need help figuring it out. And the first time is always going to be the hardest when you ask for help, because it's going to feel like you failed, and it's going to feel like you have given up on yourself, but it is the strongest thing that you can do for yourself. Uh, Hands down. As humans, we are not meant to walk through this life alone. We are meant to connect with people who choose you, and who you chose as well. Um, and they can support you. People want to support you. It's not like when you ask for help, people are going to be like, no. And if they do, they shouldn't be in your life. But at like in its truest human form, we are meant to connect and build each other up. And, um, there's tons of help available out there for you if you just ask for it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because my husband actually showed me a TikTok last night that relates exactly to what we're talking about. And it was this girl who was like, why do we feel so uncomfortable asking our friends to drive us to the airport? And it's true.
Oh, I
Like,
saw that. I
you
saw
did
that
you
too.
see?
Yes.
And at first, he showed it to me because it was, like, stitched, I think, and the girl was like, "I'll ask my friends to drive me to the airport even if it's far away in the middle of rush hour," and I was like, "Oh gosh, that's not a good look."
Same.
It was like, that doesn't sound like a great friend," but then the girl explained it after, and I was like, "I never thought." I, like I guess I, like, don't I think of everything as, like, "Oh, I don't wanna, like, interfere with your schedule," and I do think that's just the way society has, like, gone is like you kind of like we live in an individualistic way and we don't rely on other people because that's selfish. And so like we just figure it out ourselves, but we're like missing the whole point.
Mhm.
Like you said, people want to help. We want to be there for each other without anything in return.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
so funny that you saw that same one. And I was
I
like,
do.
I like still remember it from last night. I've like been thinking about it the whole time.
I that has actually been, on my mind a lot lately after seeing that TikTok. Like, my boyfriend, we started dating 3 years ago, and he's been a huge advocate for me in so many different ways. And he's always like, "Mick, you can ask me for help. I wanna help you." And so he's helped me understand that, but, like, and he's the biggest helper possible. He's amazing, and I remember when we first started dating, he was like, "Oh, yeah, I'll pick you up at 5 a.m." And I was like, "No, you're not. You're gonna pin this against me at some point in my life," when in reality, like, he would help me at any point without
Yeah.
keeping score, Like,
Yeah.
I just
Absolutely.
want to help.
Yes, and I would do that for other people, like, so happily, but the idea that someone else would wanna do it for me is like, no, that's just
I
unheard
know,
of.
I know. It's yeah,
Such an interesting concept, but I agree. I think it changes your life when you realize that people want to help you and they want to be there for you, and sometimes the biggest hurdle is just allowing them to do that.
yes. So many doors will open for you.
Absolutely. Okay, to finish off the beautiful conversation, I feel like you have so much good wisdom to share. I don't even like I okay, actually I want to ask you both things. So you did say your dad loved quotes. Do you have a quote that you love that has stuck with you for forever or maybe just right now it really resonates with you?
When you're trying to think about these quotes, it's always hard for you to remember, and I have some of them somewhere written down, but I think it's really special that, my dad was a stay-at-home dad. I was with him 24/7, and literally everything that I do, he did at some point. Like, I'll be in the car, and he'll be like, I'll hear him in my head literally say, "Mick, put your turn signal on 100 feet before you're supposed to turn. Like, you gotta do that." Um, and I remember, like, shaking, like, holding the steering wheel, like, "Okay, Dad." But it's those little things that I always I you always forget how much a parent influences your life. Um, whether it's a stay-at-home parent or um so I wouldn't say that it's like a direct quote, although "Get there when you get there," the one that I said, has really played a big role in my life. Again, you never know how much a parent influences your actions until they're gone and they can't say it to you anymore. But you'll get there when you get there. I'm one to always jump the gun and always make, like, very reaction oriented decisions rather than, like, responsive. And he has taught me to really take a step back, talk about the decision process, and then go into it thoughtfully. And he always did it. He always did it. If he was dealing with something that he needed to make a decision about, he would spend a day thinking about it and writing things in his notepad and
Mhm.
weighing out the pros and cons. As somebody who is very reactionary, that has helped me and also kept me very safe in the car.
I feel like this goes back to really car safety in the best way possible.
Yes.
Oh, no, I think those things are really important, and especially we live in a highly reactionary society. Everything I feel like is about reacting as quickly as possible, and I think it's a beautiful lesson that reacting as quickly as possible is not the best solution sometimes. Sometimes it's as slowly as possible. It's like really sitting there and internalizing and sitting with our thoughts. And I don't think we're great at sitting with our thoughts nowadays because we can share them so easily. Why would we sit with them when we can just share them? And hence why people share pretty idiotic things.
Yes. Yes. And I'm terrible with sitting with my thoughts.
Oh, me
Absolutely
too.
terrible.
Yeah. No, not a thing. Either I'm gonna spiral or I'm gonna call my mom or my sister. Usually not my husband because unfortunately he's at work.
Word vomit.
Yes. Okay, then this will actually be the last piece, but or the last question, but if you could talk to Mick 10 years ago, or when you felt like you were at the thick of your eating disorder battle or just a really difficult time in your life, and if you could tell her one thing to help her see that there is hope and light at the other side, what would you say to her?
I would say that, one, there is another way to live, one that's filled with love and joy. And, as much as you've been trying to do this one thing, for me, it was, losing weight or trying to keep up with my eating disorder. When a door is constantly shutting on you and you're trying to pry yourself out of it, and your body is constantly like telling you like, no, this is not good, like, you're angry, you're volatile right now. You don't want to eat and you need fuel. Like, your body will tell you to pivot because, like I said, when you ask for help, so many doors will open for you. Asking for help is not scary, or it is scary, but like, it will open up so many doors for you. And you are so much more than what you think that you're capable of. Um, because this other option out there will leave you speechless. You will not be able to recognize yourself in the best way. So trust your body, trust your mind. Um, and it's okay to pivot, even if it is the scariest thing that you will ever do in your life.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Mick, thank you so much for joining us today and taking some time to chat and to share all of your wise words. You are a light on social media, truly. I think clearly people are attracted to what you're posting, but I think it's because you do it in such a beautiful, authentic way and you're doing the work that needs to be done. So thank you. We will want to know where we can go if people don't already follow you, where we can go to follow to support your work, any projects you're doing, give us like handles, websites, whatever.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram, Zazon, Mikzazon. Someone took that handle on TikTok. I'm still mad about it. So you have to add two Ks to mix. So Mikkzazon on TikTok, and my website, mickzazon.com. And I have some special things happening here in the next few months. So I'm excited to have you here if you want to join my amazing community.
Amazing. Everyone go follow her, subscribe to her channel. She's clearly an amazing woman. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This was a blast.
Oh, good. And to everyone watching, listening, thank you for tuning into The Shift. Don't forget to subscribe. Let us know what you think about the episode, and we will see you next. Thanks so much.